Hello, welcome to the new session of Primate Pro. And today this is lecture number 6 of our ongoing chapter respiration and breathing. So we'll start from the transport of the CO2 and later we will complete with the regulation of respiration. Okay, so today we will start from transport of CO2. Okay, in the last lecture I have completed up to transport of oxygen. Now today the transport of carbon dioxide. Okay, now so give us the heading as transport of CO2. Transport of CO2. So what do you mean the transport of CO2? This is the CO2. Okay, here and now this is O2 and let it be the tissue. I need the scale. Scale is lost. Okay. This is be the tissue. Okay. Now here, from here, the oxygen comes to the alveoli. Here, from here, the carbon dioxide is assimilated in two ways. In plasma, how much percent? 7%. 7% in plasma, and here CO2 plus hemoglobin makes carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, HbCO2. HbCO2, this is reaction number 1, and in the next reaction this CO2 breaks down into H2CO3, that is bicarbonate, and now H plus HCO3 minus. Okay, this is 70%. Reaction number 2. Okay, this enzyme is carbonic anhydrase. Here also carbonic anhydrase. Now what happens? This total reaction occurs inside the RBC. This total reaction occurs inside the RBC. In RBC. Okay. Now what happens next? This in RBC it is transported as bicarbonate ion. Okay. This question comes in Neet. In which method the oxygen is carried or the carbon dioxide is carried in the blood, that is in the form of bicarbonate. Okay. Now for traveling to lungs, it is dissolved in the plasma. It is dissolved in the plasma. Okay. Now, as it dissolved in the plasma, now CO2 1 directly dissolved in plasma, that is 7%, and bound to hemoglobin means the carbon dioxide that is binded with the hemoglobin, that is CO2 binds to globin part of hemoglobin as HbCO2 in, that is 20 to 25% in this format, known as carbaminohemoglobin, known as carbaminohemoglobin, known as carbaminohemoglobin. And the third as bicarbonate, it is 70%. Is transported as bicarbonate, okay, through carbonic anhydrase. So now write carbonic anhydrase. So fastest enzyme in the body, present in higher concentration in RBC and also some in plasma. Carbonic anhydrase क्या है? Carbonic anhydrase is the fastest enzyme and it is maximally stored in the RBC and some in the plasma. Okay. Now, info. The bicarbonate HCO3 minus, the bicarbonate is formed within RBC at tissue, but for travel it is dissolved in plasma. Okay, so bicarbonate is formed in RBC, but at the tissue level it is dissolved in the plasma. Okay, now comes to the next topic. The next topic is note. You have to write a note. After that I will give a flow chart of the transportation of the gases and enzymes, and it will take time for me to draw, but that is very much important because it will give you a gist idea of total reaction. Okay, now take it as a note. For every 100 ml oxygen blood transports 4 ml carbon dioxide to the alveoli. Okay, remember. So now I am drawing the conclusive diagram. For transport of O2 and CO2. You will not find the diagram anywhere. Okay, so let me draw. Here it is O2 and CO2 in alveoli. CO2 O2 tissues, that is it is in tissue level. Okay, now from the alveoli, O2 is 3%. O2, CO2, CO2. Okay, let me draw the equations. Write the equations. Hb hemoglobin, that is HbO2 plus H plus. HbO2 is 97%. Carbon dioxide plus water forms to bicarbonate. Another to H plus plus HCO3 minus. HCO3 minus. It is 70% transported as bicarbonate ion, and CO2 plus HbO2 equals to O2 plus HbCO2. It is transported in plasma in 23%, as that of 23%. This is here in pulmonary. This reaction occurs in pulmonary capillary. Okay, this reaction comes in pulmonary capillary. Now here another CO2 is 7% in RBC here, and is bicarbonate. Okay, now in case of tissue level, what happens in tissue level? The CO2 is 7% in the tissue level. Okay, and in plasma, it is a plasma barrier. Okay, now here CO2 is CO2 plus H2O via carbonic anhydrase. ठीक है, in H2CO3 carbonic anhydrase makes to H plus plus HCO3 minus. Okay, now by CO2 plus Hb oblique O2 equals to HbCO2 plus O2. HbCO2 is 23%. Now in case of oxygen, what happens in oxygen? O2 plus Hb hemoglobin equals to what happens? H plus plus HbO2. HbO2 is 97% in tissue level. Okay, so here oxygen free 3%. Okay, this is the systemic capillary. This is the systemic capillary. This is the systemic capillary. Okay, here RBC. Okay, this is the gist diagram. Okay, now we come to the next topic. What is the next topic? The next topic is regulation of respiration. Regulation of respiration. Regulation of respiration. Regulation of respiration. Regulation. Regulation, it is controlled in two ways, nerval and chemical, via the nervous system, and via chemical regulation. Chemical. So in nervous system we do as RBC here, pneumotaxic center, it is located at the cerebellum, pneumotaxic center, and here it is central chemoreceptor, and now in the fourth peripheral chemoreceptor. These all are located in the hindbrain. In the nervous system, I will elaborately discuss everything of this. Okay, these all are there. Okay, now peripheral chemoreceptors are located in the aortic artery, aortic bodies, and the carotid bodies. Okay, here peripheral chemoreceptor are aortic bodies, and carotid bodies. Okay, the chemical chemoreceptors are aortic bodies and the carotid bodies. Now, regulation of respiration, the nerval regulation. Okay, let us discuss the nerval regulation. So, what is the nerval regulation? Nerval regulation is regulated by RBC, and by pneumotaxic center, that is PC. So by the RBC, how it is controlled by the RBC? By RBC, respiratory rhythm muscle, by respiratory rhythm center, by the respiratory rhythm center. Location of the respiratory rhythm center is medulla oblongata of brain. Okay, now basically hindbrain. Okay, now in the third point, it maintains what? It maintains the rhythm of breathing. One breath contains inhalation and exhalation. One breath contains inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation 25 and exhalation 35. Okay. Inhalation is for 2 seconds. And exhalation is for 3 seconds. Total 5 seconds. Okay. So in 60 seconds, that is 1 minute, we normal RR respiration rate is 12 to 16 per minute. Okay, in a normal human body we respirate about 12 to 16 respiration per minute, including inhalation and the exhalation. Okay, now in case of pneumotaxic center, in pneumotaxic center what happens? In pneumotaxic center, it is location pneumotaxic center. Location pons region of the hindbrain pons region. Okay, now this is known as switch of center. So what do you mean by the switch of center? When this center is activated, it informs the RBC to reduce inhalation. reduce inhalation, reduce the duration of inhalation. Okay. If more oxygen is taken, the blood will get acidic. Okay. So there's a problem. The problem will come in case of respiration. The acidosis will happen and the pH will shift. So as the RBC maintains a clear buffer, so there is a nerval regulation as well as a chemical regulation of the respiration which is required by the body. Okay. Now when it is, I'm writing it, when this is activated, it gives signal to RBC to reduce duration of inhalation. Breathing becomes faster. Okay. Now I'm drawing a diagram of pons. Okay. Signals. Okay. I'm reading a diagram, a small diagram of respiration. Okay. Now in case of pons, pneumotaxic center, this is the RBC. Okay. This is the medulla. Okay. Has group of RBC has group of neurons that maintains the rhythm of breathing. Signals the diaphragm and the intercostal muscle. Medulla, it signals not the medulla, the neuron. The neurons, it signals the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. Okay. Now come to the next topic as chemoregulation. Nerval regulation is completed and the chemical regulation. Now the chemical regulation. I am teaching you as much as you require for the NEET. Extra content is not required to memorize you. You will study those contents in MBBS. Later, if you do MD in general medicine, you will study on that. Later, if you do DM on neurology, you will study on that. Okay, neurology, pulmonology. Okay. Now the chemoregulation. The regulation. Chemoreceptors. The chemoreceptors are of two types. Okay? Sensitive for certain chemicals. Certain chemicals के लिए बहुत sensitive होता है. क्या sensitive for certain chemicals. And chemoreceptors are the central chemoreceptors. Here central chemoreceptors. Central chemoreceptors. इसका function क्या है? Location. Location is medulla. There is a chemosensitive area in medulla. There is a chemosensitive area. There is a chemosensitive area located near RBC. Okay. Now, change in concentration of carbon dioxide. जब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ब्लड में ज्यादा हो जाता है तब क्या होता है? चेंज इन द कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड हाइड्रोजन आयन in the cerebrospinal fluid, that is a CSF. Change in the cerebrospinal fluid is detected by them. जब भी कोई ब्लड में CO2 ज्यादा हो जाता है या फिर हाइड्रोजन आयन का कंसंट्रेशन ज्यादा हो जाता है तभी ये एक्टिवेट हो जाता है. ठीक है. So increase in carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion signals RBC breathing rate to increase the alter. Now the peripheral chemoreceptors. So what does the peripheral chemoreceptors do? Peripheral chemoreceptors. I have taught you the central chemoreceptors. Now the peripheral chemoreceptors. The peripheral chemoreceptors contains of the aortic bodies, the carotid bodies, okay, aortic bodies and the carotid bodies. Carotid bodies. Okay, what is the aortic bodies? Chemoreceptors that are associated with aorta. Chemoreceptors that are associated with aorta, where in heart. And the carotid bodies, chemoreceptor that is associated with carotid artery. Chemoreceptors associated with carotid artery. Okay, now what happens? Change in H plus and CO2 in blood is detected by them. Okay, and increase in carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion in blood leads them signaling the RBC to increase breathing rate. So if it is your heart, let it be your heart. In your heart, this be your aorta. These are the carotid artery. Carotid artery. This is aortic. Okay, these are the carotid artery. This is the aortic arch. Okay, now what? Take it as a note. Take the note. Okay, the role of oxygen is maintaining. The role of oxygen in maintaining the rhythm and breathing of the breathing is quite insignificant. The role of oxygen in maintaining the rhythm of breathing is insignificant. Okay, so for today we like to end here. So what we have taught today: the transport of the carbon dioxide, the nerval coordination and the chemical coordination, how the breathing is regulated in our body. So you can take it as a note, and if you do not understand anything after this, I will plus just leave it a comment. I will give a short videos on that also. Okay, thank you. Please subscribe the channel. That's my request. Please subscribe the channel and share it with your friends if you like the videos. Okay, thank you.